And we are live and we are recording for YouTube. Hi, Rodine.
Hello, Chantal. How are you?
Good and you today. And I love the topic that we have agreed on. And it's about choices.
Yep. Choices.
Yes. And not making a choice. So I'm going to, as you said, we're going to go here so we can start. Here we are. There we are. So we can see people commenting. You know, as always, as we do say, it's a choice whether you comment or not, obviously.
Yes.
You know, so again, we give you the choice. However, you know, something about these things, and this is what I'm going to speak for myself, but Roddy and I, we started this off making a choice, making a decision to do this, not knowing, really, did we, how this was going to evolve?
Not a clue.
No.
We just knew that it sounded like fun. It was something that we both wanted to do. So we said, okay, let's do it.
Yeah. And that's often where it starts, is that first step, that setting. It's not only just setting the intention, because that's what I realized. It's making a choice to set the intention, making a choice to then put it into action. Because it's all very well to say, I'm going to do something and then not do it.
Yes.
You know, and often what I found for me was I'd then let myself down, particularly if I was wanting to deal with something difficult or a person or something, you know, or a situation. I'm not going to ever do that again. Then I would, you know. So there's a lot of things. Pardon?
Yeah, I was just going to say, who has not done that?
Yeah, exactly.
So I know that I certainly have.
Yeah, it's easy to do it. The other thing I realized also a while ago when I was sort of in training years ago was no choice is a choice. You know, that sort of at the time was like, oh, bizarre. But if you don't make a choice, you're making a choice by not making a choice. I mean, you know, that sort of, you know.
Yep.
And I loved you in the beginning, you know, quoting Shakespeare, to choose or not to choose.
That is the question, to choose or not to choose.
So,
yeah.
So, and, you know, people who are watching, what are your thoughts on this? Where have you felt this? Where do you hold yourself back from making a choice? And again, I think it's like with art, you know, I'm going to go down, you know, what medium to choose to go on. At the moment, I'm everywhere. I haven't quite settled yet on anything. What do I want to choose to do this morning? Well, I'm actually going to carry on filling out this, but now doing some art. But here I'm going to do some little what do you call them? Markings. But yeah, that's right, markings. And those little mandala markings. You know, so again, we have a choice. We have, and also here I'm gabbling away as always. We also can choose to stay in how we're feeling. Now, if you'd said that to me in the height of trauma, that would have thrown me. So there comes a time where it's understanding. So I spoke to my psychologist recently again about writing my memoir and asking her, how was I when I first went in and how did she handle this? Because I want to write. And she said she needed to wait quite a while before she chose to gently challenge me, before she chose to push me a little bit, you know?
Yeah. Interesting. Like it's almost like last week's topic, right? It's so big and it can go in so many ways. When we think of choosing, you know, we think of the big things, the big choices, the big decisions, right? Yeah. But like you said, choosing can be little things with what do I want to have this morning to eat, right? That's a choice.
That's right.
So I know I always seem to go to the big things and think of whether I feel I've made a good choice or not with the big things, right? And I like the one where you You say you need to make a decision about something. You need to choose a path. You need to do something specific, and then you choose not to do anything about it. Right. I think that's been almost every gym membership I've had.
Yep.
I know I have to, I want to go, I want to make these improvements. So I'm going to go, and you get the membership, and then it doesn't happen.
Love it. Yes.
Right. I
Yes.
choose not to go. No, I don't choose anything. And then I'm sitting at home.
That's right. And the irony is with something like that, again, took me a long time to understand, unpack it all, is actually you're letting yourself down.
Yeah.
This is what people don't realize. You're letting yourself down, and you're not putting yourself as a priority, particularly if it's something like that. It's your health, it's like what you eat. I know when I'm not doing very well, a bit emotional, I tend to eat more chocolate or more sweet things. So again, that's a choice. But again, I think it's also learning. The other thing I would like to say with that is I now know that I do it out of awareness. So I now know if I'm having not such a good time, a day or so, and I might eat that little bit extra of whatever it might be, I now know I'm doing it. I think there's a difference. It's gone from there's a difference there, because I now know that when I'm better, I can stop.
But you're also allowing yourself to make the choice and to choose the thing that isn't so good.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
I found that one in particular, especially when it has to do with something for us that maybe isn't so good. So like you said, having a little extra chocolate when perhaps you shouldn't, but you choose to do it anyway. I think when we do that, the nice thing is we give ourselves the permission to choose that, which I think also then eliminates or at least definitely reduces any kind of form of guilt over that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Whereas when you don't really think about it and make a conscious decision, a conscious choice. So if you just kind of randomly sat and ate half a bar of chocolate, afterwards, then you feel guilty, and then it compounds everything. Right? So
That's
that was
exactly
a little
right.
bit of a meander, but it comes into that, making the choice and being okay with it when you know that maybe it's not the best one. It's okay.
Yeah, exactly right. And it is okay. Because again, I think it comes back to perfection, to being the good person, to being all those things, I think that all comes into play. And I think another thing I also learned, and I was thinking about it the other day, is about labels. We might say, oh, I can't do that because I am whatever it might be. And I think that also becomes an excuse, because then we choose to hide, or we choose to act on that, and we choose to stay in that box, So I think there's that as well. If we're going to go a bit deeper to another level, it's like, okay, I might say, oh, I can't do that because I'm not an artist. Okay, let's do this with art, because I'm not an artist. Well, what am I doing here? I'm actually blocking that. I'm using it as a distraction, as an excuse, and is it, now the other thing that came then to mind was when I used to do that, is it because I really don't want to do it? And I'm just doing this, whatever, or is it because there's something deep within me? Because again, when I finally made the decision, the choice to go for it, well, it's been amazing. It's been incredibly freeing.
Right.
So again, I think it depends.
Nope, carry on.
No, I've gone lost what I was going to say. Sorry. Which can also happen here. So if anyone who's watching, what are your thoughts on this, about choosing? Because we do have, as you say, we do have choice. Well, I believe we have choices in everything we do or not. Some of them are going to be unconscious. I now know with me, some of the choices I've made that I have changed have now become habitual, like have become part of my life, have become part of me. So I think it's like with anything, if you're learning to change something, it's going to take a while to create that shift. It's basically a practice, because you've got to build up that muscle, don't you really?
Yeah. The awareness, give yourself permission to make the choices when they come up. And I just lost my thought too. I ended up bumping back in my head. It's funny. And I'm doodling right now as well about choosing. So I'm just,
Oh, I like that. Yes.
I'm just
Yes.
randomly writing sentences and words, and now I'm just doodling. And then after, I think I am going to play with some paint over top of it. But I went back in my head as I was doodling about how you had mentioned before that we can choose how we feel.
Yes.
And that one is something that, yeah, if you're in trauma, that's not going to make any sense. That is going to, pardon my language, but it's going to piss you off so much.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But then as you start to, heal, work through things, gain a different perspective, and you realize that it really is a choice. Some days I love that I get to choose how I feel, that I understand that I choose it. And then other days it's just frustrating because I really still have those days. I just want to stomp my little feet and smack my little fists on the table and have a 2-year-old temper tantrum because I just don't want to be responsible.
Yes.
I just don't want to have to be responsible all the time. I just don't want to have to make another decision. I just want to roll over, under the covers and just leave me alone.
Yeah. But I think, again, that's the choice. Because I think, again, that's something I've also learned is we are going to have those days.
Yeah.
You can't be Pollyannish about it, or can't this toxic positivity we've spoken about, which we'll go back into more. I'm going to write more about that on my Substack and through my emails, because I've realized how subtle yet powerful that is. So I learned through my meditation all those years ago, and that's what it's insight meditation, my teacher called, and that's why I use it in my work.
Right.
And obviously for myself, you get insights. So it's like you sit there quietly. So now I go, okay, I acknowledge I am feeling anxious, pissed off, annoyed.
Yeah.
I accept that I'm feeling that, because then you're no longer doing the resistance, and then I just let it be. Now, in the past, when I was, I don't need it so much now, I'd just give myself, I'm going to say 48 hours, I'm going to feel whatever I'm feeling, depressed, shit, angry, whatever. Yeah. Then I'm going to, then over a period of time, it would be after 48 hours, like, I don't want to feel like this anymore. But again, that's a practice. Again, that is when I was out of the acuteness and the intensity of trauma, as you said. Because I remember, I think I might have said this in one of the others, but the psychologist said to me, if she had pushed me too far in the beginning, she knew I would have walked out that door and never come back.
Right.
So on that unconscious level, I would have known not to go back, because when you're in that bad space, whether someone understands it or not, gets it or not, you need to just accept that that's where you are at. So it's like, how do we accept ourselves as well for feeling this way? And there can be no logic in feeling that way. None whatsoever.
Yeah, no.
We've got to learn that sometimes it just is what it is. We might wake up that way because we haven't had a bad sleep or something has triggered us. And that's just what it is.
Yeah. What I found those days, like early on, I found those days really, 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 really frustrating.
Yeah.
Just because as you are working through something, working things out, and especially as you start to feel better again, and then to have a day that just seems to not go right, to not feel right, whatever it is that comes up, right? And especially when you get so used to trying to work through or whatever, allow, release the emotions, when you have a day where there isn't a clear kind of trigger, those ones were so hard. Because to give you, like you said, right, to make the choice to just be okay with, well, this is where I'm at today, and it's not going to last forever, right? But at the beginning, when you're still learning all of the stuff, those days are just nasty.
They are. They are. And that's again, because we give ourselves a hard time, all that sort of stuff. And it's learning just to accept, because our society also, I found, is everything has to be positive. Everything has to be, no one wants to know the hard stuff. No one wants to know that you're going through it, because it triggers either stuff in themselves or they don't want to know. So we've learned as a society, and also within our homes, seen and not heard. You can't feel that way, particularly those negative energies of anger, jealousy, distress, deep grief. Those are things that a lot of people, we don't know how to handle. I don't know about in Canada, but here, I'm fine. Hello, how are you? I'm fine.
All the time, right? All the time.
So, so what are you doing? But having said that, sometimes I also needed to say that. So there's a bit of an irony here, that sometimes I needed to say it just perhaps to start having hope and belief. So it's a fine line between all of this, so again, here we go, again, choices again, and also I know that people don't want to hear if you're having a bad day. They'd be, oh, okay, fine. And then they carry on. You're sitting there going, well, okay, why did I share that for? What was that all about?
Yeah. What's true? It's all the social norms, the social guidelines, right? When someone asks you, so how are you?
Yeah. Yes, that's right. I'm not well. And I think it's also because we're not taught how to just sit and listen, how to be there. Because when I did the trauma-informed course, and also it's part of the counseling, it's called active listening. How can you just be there and just say to someone, okay, how are you? Do you want to share that? How can I support you? Because it's giving, the other word I'm starting to come back to, and I've forgotten about again in learning, is agency. This is what a counselor does, and person-centered counselor, well, that's myself, I should say, is we're giving you agency to take control of your life, of how you're feeling, how you want to be, decision-making, choice-making. So even when you're in that state, you can still, I know what so I met a girl a while ago, and she has a card in her wallet or purse that if she is going into a massive panic attack, she's got a card there. So if someone's there, she can show them the card, and then this is what you need to do on one side, and on the flip side is this is who you need to contact. Because sometimes if you're really bad, you can't actually say that.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was interesting. So how can we as a society learn to just not criticize someone for their frailties in inverted commas, or for their emotionality? Because that's what we do. And then, of course, what do? We hide it, don't we?
Yes.
We get embarrassed. We hide it. We're not good enough. People don't want to know, But I also think, again, coming back to choices, I think, again, it depends. Well, I know for me, so this is my judgment. If someone is like that, but making a difference and getting support, I think helps. But if someone just stays in there, again, after a while, I suppose you do switch off, because they're not helping themselves. So again, is that a judgment? Is that being critical? So there comes a line where, how far do you stay with that person? Because how is it eventually affecting you if they're not making that decision or choice to, perhaps change or shift? What are your thoughts on that?
That's that's a really tricky one. And I think, it would depend on the relation, like the intimacy in the relationship that it was showing up in, honestly.
Yeah.
Because if it's, obvious, I mean, I think anyway, if it's someone that you're not very close to or not very invested in, it's much easier to, I think, just step away,
Yes.
right?
Yes. I agree. I agree.
But
It is
then,
easy.
yeah, go on.
No.
I was just going to say as well, though, and then doesn't that also start to tie into boundaries, which is what we talked about last week, is what
Right.
are our own boundaries? When is that support? When does it start to blur boundaries, our own boundaries, right?
Exactly. And I'm going to add to that people pleasing, because people
Yeah.
pleasing can come into this too with being unaware. Why? And then somehow it's your guilt, or you need, it can turn into so many things. I just think there comes a time where, perhaps it's also my personality. If someone's not helping themselves, and after a long time they're still saying the same thing, it's like, well, in the end, you've got to also protect, as you said, set boundaries and protect your own energy. And I know
Yes.
I did this with my mother for many, many years. This is why I have it towards it for many, many years. And I contributed to what you call learned helplessness. So I kept her in that helplessness because I am the go-getter, I am the organizer, I am this, but also played into my needs. So there's a lot more involved in just that.
Yeah.
So I now know, as I start recognizing it, it's like, oh no, what am I doing here? That took me a long time to be able to say that. And suddenly I realized recently I was doing exactly that same thing. It's like, oh my God, I'm just doing it again.
Yeah.
I am propping them up. I am helping them, but nothing was changing. So again, I think with my mum, I felt in the end I'd wasted so many words and energy and trying, in the end, I think she wanted me just to basically do everything on her behalf, which is not possible.
No.
So by the time it took me a long time to extricate myself from that, and what it meant to me and how I needed to make my own choices. My God, it took me a long time to do that. So again, everyone watching this, if you're going through something like this or something's resonating, it does take time to actually say, I matter enough to set those boundaries and make a different choice.
Does it ever? Yeah.
And the other word I recently read, and just saying, we often say mantras, I value myself. And then I read somewhere, I am valuable. I was like, oh, that really hit me. I am valuable.
Oh, I value myself. I am valuable. Oh, that's very different.
It is different. So again, anyone just watching, just put your hand on your heart. Nice deep breath in. And just say to yourself, I am of value, or I value myself. And then just say to yourself, I am valuable. And what happens?
It's very different.
It is different, isn't it?
Yes.
It is different. And I went, oh, wow. Because if you see yourself as valuable, well, then it'll eventually make it easy to go, well, then you can make then choices. Why am I doing this? Why? Because there's often fear of rejection, abandonment, nastiness, all that sort of stuff coming back from the other person potentially, and then your guilt and all those sort of things. But I tell you what, I've made it such a difference in my life. It's huge. It is huge. It is really big. So, and on that note, we're sort of coming towards the end, but everyone who's watching, we've got something exciting, because this will tie into next week and what we are putting together as an offer. Ta-da!
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 We are, as I'm actually kind of doing a similar thing right now with my paints. We are, Chantal had mentioned this I think in a few weeks ago in one of our conversations, one of our art jams. We are going to offer a workshop. It will be probably about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And we would like to invite you to join us for that. More details coming. But we are going to offer a workshop where we are going to write love letters to ourselves And then we are going to embellish and sparkle and bedazzle the love letters to ourselves and turn them into a gorgeous piece of art that is going to be completely your own beautiful, unique creation that reflects you. So more information will be coming about on that one, Chantal.
So this is what I'd done. And that was what we were talking about. So what we thought we'd do, so adding on to that. So next week, we are actually, Rodine and I, actually going to do it ourselves to give you an example.
Yep.
And then next week, we'll announce the dates, the cost, and it's going to be on Zoom. There's going to be no replay because we only want about 10 to 12 women, if we can get that, because it wants to be personal, intimate, because this is stuff that can come up. We'll hold you in the space.
Yeah.
We will support you. Yeah. And Rodine's going to, tell you what you're going to create, a lovely PDF.
Yes, I will create a PDF that will also get sent out. So in it, we'll have a supply list suggestion, because they're always suggestions, because with something like this, anything goes, and it can turn into mixed media, which mine usually do somehow, but it can just be with paint. So I'm going to send out a list of suggested supplies that you can have on hand. And also just offer up some possible mixed media options for you as well. So
I like it.
Out.
Yeah. So we'd love to see you there. As I said, we're going to mention it next week. Now, I know one of the ladies, when I said what topic, mentioned that neurographics that I'd spoken about a while ago. So that will become a topic, and it may even become part of the love letter, because you could still bring that in, because it is about supporting anxiety yourself. So we might be able to bring that in then as well. Absolutely. So, oh my gosh, again, choices. You choose to join us, you choose to then, and if when you do, you choose to put in as much as you want or not. So again, it's about choice. It's about you being able to explore that without judgment, without, no, you're not going to be criticized. It might be you just want to join and just be in the background. It might be you feel safe enough to start putting yourself out there, because it's baby steps. It is baby steps. Yeah. And as you get to know us, you'll feel more comfortable knowing that we will be there to hold you in that space. Absolutely. So think about that. And yes, we are planning.
We'd love to have you come.
Oh yeah, and what a beautiful way to do it. And even if you, I love, see, oh my gosh, oh, see, perfect. See, that's it. Beautiful, beautiful.
Fiddling around.
Yeah, and I think again, it's about the feeling behind the words, the feeling. It doesn't have to look like an art piece. It needs to sit here for you, and then you can develop on that. And then what we're also then going to do, so again, topics, we are going to start looking at potentially, so I'm setting the intention to do a few more workshops, do a few a year to create something else. All right. Lovely, lovely.
Wonderful chat again. I hope everybody who watched us or who catches us on the replay enjoys it. And as always, we invite your comments. We'd love to hear from you.
That we do. Thank you, Rodine. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Chantal. Bye.
Bye.